Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I'm going to be reading out of the Complete Apocrypha, and I'm going to be reading the book of Judith. It's about 16 chapters long, so I might break it up into 2 or 3 sections depending on how long it goes, because I don't want to make extremely lengthy videos concerning this, because I'm not the best reader and it might get kind of hard to follow. She just wants attention though, don't you? Alright. So the book of Judith relates to the story of God's deliverance of the Jewish people. This was accomplished by the hand of a female, a constant motive, meant to recall the hand of God in the Exodus narrative. The work may have been written about 100 BC. There are 4 Greek recensions of Judith, 4 ancient translations, and some late Hebrew versions, apparently translated from the Vulgate. Despite Jerome's claim to have translated an Aramaic text, no ancient Aramaic or Hebrew manuscripts have been found. The oldest extant text of Judith is the preservation of 15:1-7, inscribed on a 3rd century AD potsherd. Whatever the reasons, the rabbis did not count Judith among their scriptures, and the Reformation adopted that position. Chapter 1. In the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned over the Assyrians in Nineveh, the great city in the days of Arphaxad, who reigned over the Medes in Ecbatana, and built around Ecbatana walls of hewn stones 3 cubits broad and 6 cubits long, and made the height of the wall 70 cubits, and its breadth 50 cubits, and set towers at its gates 100 cubits high, and the breadth of the foundation was 60 cubits, and made its gates, even gates that were raised to the height of 70 cubits, and their breadth 40 cubits, for his mighty army to go out of, and setting in the array of footmen. Even in those days, King Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Aphoxad in the Great Plain. This plain is on the borders of Ragau, R-A-G-A-U. There came to meet him all that lived in the hill country, and all that lived by Euphrates, Tigris, and Kitty, and Hydaspes, in the plain of Arioch, the king of Elamaeans. Many nations of the son of Chelod assembled themselves to the battle, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, sent to all who lived in Persia, and all who lived westward, to those who lived in Cilicia, Damascus, Libanus, Antibilus, and to all who lived along the sea coast, and to those among nations whereof Carmel and Gilead, and to the higher Galilee and the plain of Esdraelon, and to all who were in Samaria and its cities, and beyond Jordan to Jerusalem, Bethane, Chelis, Kadesh, and the river of Egypt, Taphanes, Ramses, and all of the lands of Goshen, until you come above Tanis and Memphis, and to all lived in Egypt, until you come to the borders of Ethiopia. All those who lived in all the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, and didn't go with him to the war, for they were not afraid of him. But he was before them as one man. They turned away his messengers from their presence without effect and with disgrace. And Nebuchadnezzar was exceedingly angry with all his land, and he swore by his throne and kingdom that he would surely be avenged upon the coasts of Sicilia, Damascus, and Syria, and he would kill with his sword all the inhabitants of the land of Moab, and the children of Ammon, all of Judea, and all over Egypt, until you come to the borders of the 2 seas. And he set the battle in array with his army against King Aphoxad in the 17th year, and he prevailed his battle. And he turned to flight all his army of Aphoxad, and all his horses, and all of his chariots. He became master of his cities, and even came to Ecbatana, and took towers, and plundered its streets, and turned its beauty into shame. He took Arphaxad into the mountains of Ragau, struck him through with his darts, and utterly destroyed him to this day. He returned with them to Nineveh, and he and all his company of sundry nations, all exceedingly great multitude of men of war, and there he took ease, Kitty, and banqueted, he and his army, for 120 days. Chapter 2. In the 18th year, the 22nd day of the first month, there was talk in the house of the Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, that he should be avenged in all the land as he spoke. He called together all the servants and all the great men and communicated with the great council. Okay. She's making this difficult. I probably won't get to halfway through it. Now, when it came home again, I'm in Tobit now. Goodness gracious. Kitty. Okay. He called together all his servants, all his great men, and communicated with them his secret counsel, and concluded the afflicting of all the land out of his own mouth. They decreed to destroy all flesh which didn't follow the word of his mouth. It came to pass, when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next after himself, and said to him, "The great king, Lord of all the earth, says, Behold, you will go out from my presence, and take with you men who trust in their strength, 120,000 footmen and 12,000 horses with their riders. And you will go out against all the west country, because they disobeyed the commandment of my mouth. You will declare to them that they should prepare earth and water, because I will go out in my wrath against them, and will cover the whole face of the earth, and plant... You will declare to them that they should prepare earth and water, because I will go out in my wrath against them, and will cover the whole face of the earth with my feet of my army, and I will give them the plunder to them. Their slain will fill their valleys and brooks, and the river will be filled with dread until it overflows." Sun's getting a little bright. "I will lead them captives to the utmost parts of the earth, but you will go out and take all of their coasts from me first. If they will yield themselves to you, then you must reserve them for me until the day of their reproof. As for those who are disobedient, your eye will not spare, but will give to them to be slain and be plundered in all your land. For as I live, and by the power of my kingdom, I have spoken, and I will do this with my hand. Moreover, you will not transgress anything of the commandments of your Lord, but you will surely accomplish them, as I have commanded you. You will not defer to do them." So Holofernes went out from the presence of his Lord, and called all the governors and captains and officers of the army of Ashur. He counted chosen men for the battle, and his Lord had commanded him, 120,000 with 12,000 archers on horseback. He arranged them as a great multitude is ordered for the war. He took camels and asses and mules for their baggage, an exceedingly great multitude, and sheep and oxen and goats without number for their provision, and great store of rations for every man, exceedingly much gold and silver out of the king's house. He went out, he and all of his army, on their journey to go before the king Nebuchadnezzar, and to cover all their faces of the earth westward, with their chariots, horsemen, and chosen footmen. A great company of various nations went out with them, like locusts, and like the sand of the earth, for they could not be counted by reason of their multitude. And they departed out of Nineveh 3 days' journey towards the plain of Bechteleth, and encamped from Bechteleth near the mountain which is the left hand of the upper Cilicia. And he took all his army, his footmen, horsemen, chariots, and went away from there into the hill country, and destroyed Put and Lud, and plundered all the children of Rasses and the children of Ishmael, who were along the wilderness to the south of the land of Chileans. And he went over the Euphrates, and went through Mesopotamia, and broke down all the high cities that were upon the river Arboni, until you come to the sea. And he took possessions of the borders of Cilicia, and killed all that resisted him, and came to the borders of Japheth, which were toward the south, opposite of Arabia. He surrounded all of the children of Midian, and set their tents on fire, and plundered their sheepfolds. He went down into the plain of Damascus in the days of wheat harvest, and set all their fields on fire, and utterly destroyed their flocks and herds, and plundered their cities, laid their plains waste, and struck their young men with the edge of the sword. And the fear and the dread of him fell upon those who lived on the sea coast, upon those who were in Sidon and Tyre, who lived in Sur and Osina, and all who lived in Gemnan. Those who lived in Azotus and Ascalon feared him exceedingly. Okay, so we're reaching about the 10-minute point. That's the end of chapter 2. So I will get back with you sometime soon to read some more out of the book of Judith, and we're going to go through this whole book together eventually. Don't know how long it's going to take. It's getting quite hot out here, and I have more housely things to do anyway. But hey, thanks for joining me. I'm reading this book for the first time. That's why it's kind of funky, because I've never read it, so I'm not sure, you know, the flow isn't there coming out of my mouth. So just hang tight with me, and I appreciate you being here anyway. And if this is your first time listening to it or reading it yourself, hey, that makes 2 of us. I love you, and so does Jesus. God bless.